What if one morning, satellite images revealed thousands of U.S. military vehicles, aircraft, missile systems, and logistics equipment arriving in Greenland? Cargo ships docking in icy ports, C-17 transport planes landing non-stop, new radar systems, missile defenses, armored vehicles, and fuel depots spreading across the Arctic landscape. This wouldn't just be another military exercise. This would be a geopolitical earthquake. Today, we're breaking down what it would mean if the United States massively increased its military presence in Greenland, how it could reshape Arctic security, and why Russia and China would be watching this move with extreme concern. At first glance, Greenland looks like nothing more than a frozen island. But strategically, Greenland is one of the most important pieces of territory on Earth. Greenland sits between North America and Europe, along key Arctic air and sea routes, near the shortest missile flight paths between Russia and the United States. During the Cold War, Greenland was already critical. The U.S. established Thule Air Base, now Patuxent Space Base, to detect Soviet missiles crossing the Arctic. In modern warfare, whoever controls the Arctic controls early warning, missile defense, and future trade routes. That's why Greenland isn't just ice, it's power. If the U.S. sent thousands of military equipment to Greenland, this wouldn't be symbolic. It would likely include air defense systems, Patriot, THAAD, or next-generation interceptors, long-range radar and space tracking systems, armored vehicles and Arctic-capable transport units, fuel storage and logistics hubs, pre-positioned weapons stockpiles, runway expansions for bombers and surveillance aircraft. This level of deployment suggests long-term readiness, not temporary drills. In military terms, it means we plan to stay, fight, and dominate if necessary. The Arctic is no longer remote or irrelevant. Climate change is melting ice, opening new shipping lanes, access to oil, gas, and rare minerals, faster military transit routes between continents. Russia already treats the Arctic as a military priority, with new Arctic bases, icebreaker fleets, hypersonic missile deployments, long-range bomber patrols. China, while not an Arctic nation, calls itself a near-Arctic state and is investing in Arctic research, infrastructure partnerships, polar shipping routes. A massive U.S. military buildup in Greenland would signal the Arctic will not be dominated by Russia or China. Russian intercontinental missiles often travel over the Arctic toward North America. If the U.S. expands missile defense and radar systems in Greenland, Russia would see it as a threat to its nuclear deterrent, an attempt to weaken Russia's second strike capability, a strategic encirclement from the north. This could trigger increased Russian Arctic militarization, more submarine patrols, hypersonic weapon deployments aimed at Greenland. In short, Russia would respond, not ignore. China may be far from Greenland, but it is deeply interested. China's global strategy depends on secure trade routes, space and satellite dominance, access to resources. Greenland is valuable for rare earth minerals, strategic ports, space and satellite tracking. A U.S. military-heavy Greenland would block Chinese infrastructure investments, limit China's Arctic access, strengthen U.S. control over polar airspace and satellites. For Beijing, this wouldn't be about Greenland alone. It would be about losing strategic influence in the Arctic before it even begins. Greenland is tied politically to Denmark, a NATO member. A large U.S. presence would automatically strengthen NATO's northern flank, Arctic defense coordination, European missile early warning systems. This could protect Europe from Arctic-based missile threats, improve transatlantic military integration, push NATO deeper into Arctic security planning. However, it could also increase tensions with Russia, make the Arctic a permanent military standoff zone. Would thousands of U.S. military equipment in Greenland mean war? Not necessarily. More likely outcomes: deterrence rather than conflict. A new Cold War-style standoff in the Arctic. Military signaling instead of direct confrontation. but the risks would rise. Miscalculations, close encounters between aircraft and submarines, escalation during global crisis. History shows that heavy militarization increases stability in theory, but danger in practice. If this scenario happened, it would confirm one thing. The future of warfare is not just about land or sea. It's about space, missile defense, early warning, control of extreme environments. Greenland would become a fortress of sensors and defenses, a hub for space and missile tracking, one of the most strategically protected regions on Earth. The Arctic would officially become a front line, not a backwater. While this video explores a hypothetical scenario, the trend is real. Arctic militarization is increasing. Great power competition is moving north. Greenland's importance is growing every year. The question is not if Greenland becomes more militarized. The real question is, how fast and how far will the U.S. go? Thousands of U.S. military equipment arriving in Greenland would not be just a deployment. It would be a message to Russia, a warning to China, a commitment to Arctic dominance, a reshaping of global security strategy. Greenland, once seen as frozen and remote, could become one of the most important military locations of the 21st century. And if that day comes, the balance of power in the Arctic and the world will never be the same.